Chapter 14. The screeching got louder as the goblins got closer and I felt my stomach drop. I started whipping my head round, trying to adjust my eyes to be able to see better in the dark pit we had fallen into. When the goblins reached us, they opened the cage door and we all poured out. They grabbed us roughly, pulling us up and into a line. I couldn't help but feel violated as they grabbed my arms and waist, moving me forwards. Dwyn stood in front of me and Balin behind. Thorin was a few dwarves away from me and although I searched, I could not find Bilbo in the crowd. As we moved through the cave my concern only grew. What if he had fallen through a different tunnel? What if he didn't fall at all? I locked eyes with Boffer who noticed my fear and helped me voice my concern. Thorin. Boffer called out, "Where's Bilbo?" My heart started racing when the dwarf lord didn't answer and I started to feel faint. I stopped moving, frozen in my tracks. The dwarves passed me, pulled along by goblins. Before I reached the back of the pack, a pair of hands grabbed my arm and gently pulled me along. I looked up and saw that the arms belonged to Thorin. He didn't look down at me but he held onto me tightly and moved me away from the prying goblin arms as we were pulled further into the cave. I tried to thank him but my mind was occupied with Bilbo's disappearance. Finally we reached an opening and were stopped in front of a large goblin sitting who sat on a makeshift throne. Goblins surrounded the bottom of the throne and they groaned in pain as their king used them as a step stool. Who would be so bold as to come armed into my kingdom? Spies? Thieves? Assassins? The large goblin asked the group. I was shaking in fear. Thorin pulled me closer to him so my back was right against his chest. At this point I didn't give much of a shit who noticed we were close, I just wanted to be out of here. Dwarves, your malevolence. A goblin told him. Dwarves. We found them on the front porch. The front porch. I almost laughed. If I didn't need to hold my tongue, I might have commented on the fact that this whole place looked like a pathetic children's playground. Well, don't just stand there. Search them. The great goblin yelled. We were pulled apart and rough-handled again. They grabbed our weapons, shields, packs, and anything else we had on us. I screamed out in fear as a goblin grabbed my arm and tried to pull anything it could off my body. Thorin was quick to pull it off of me and back towards him. He tilted my chin up to look at him and didn't release me until he was sure I was okay. Once the goblins finished searching us, their leader looked out at the group. "What are you doing in these parts? Speak." He told us. We said nothing. What were we going to respond with? Not much, dude, just trying to reclaim a mountain, you know how it is. Very well, if they will not talk, we'll make them squawk. Bring up the mangler, bring up the bone breaker. Start with the girl. He said maliciously. 3 goblins grabbed me, pulling me away from Thorin and towards the larger one. I cried out in fear, trying my hardest to push them off of me. Their nails dug into my skin and I could feel the blood trickling down my upper arm. I winced in pain and tried to twist away from them but their grip was too strong. Wait. Thorin said, stepping forward. The goblin released me and pushed me back towards the group. Thorin caught me and gently guided me towards the others where Boffer was waiting alongside Philly. They stood protectively beside me and for the first time since we arrived, I felt some sort of safety. Behind me, Keely put his hands on my shoulders, ensuring I was safe from all angles. Well, look who it is. Thorin, son of Thrain, son of Thra, king under the mountain. The king goblin said, sarcastically bowing. Oh. But I'm forgetting you don't have mountain, and you're not a king. Which makes you nobody really, he snickered. I fought of the urge to stand up for the dwarf lord. Who did this ugly fate-ass think he was? Thorin seemed to cringe at the king's words, looking down almost tearfully at the ground. I know someone who would pay a pretty price for your head, the Goblin King continued, just the head, nothing attached. Perhaps you know of whom I speak, an old enemy of yours. a pale orc astride a white warg. Thorin's eyes widened in surprise, as did the eyes of the dwarves around me. His head shot up and he looked at the king, his eyes begging for the information to be false. After racking my brain, I remembered what Balin had told me about the pale orc and covered my mouth in shock. Asog the Defiler was destroyed. He was slain in battle long ago. He stated with as much confidence as he could muster. So you think his defiling days are done, do you? He turned away and whispered to a goblin scribe, "Send word to the pale orc, tell him I have found his prize." My skin lost all its color and I felt my face go cold. Buffer held tightly onto my hand in an attempt to calm me down and Keely's grip on my shoulders tightened. I was grateful for their presence but still was filled with fear. This was it for sure. There was no way Gandalf could save us now. I knew we should have stayed in Rivendell. "Bring out the torture devices," the king yelled out, dancing around his throne with glee. With every step he took, the ground shook and I was surprised this place was still intact. The goblins started going through our stuff as the torture devices were being wheeled in. They shrieked when they picked up Thorin's sword. I know that sword. It is the goblin cleaver. The biter. The blade that sliced 1,000 necks. Slash them, beat them, peel them, kill them all. The king screamed, climbing back onto his chair in fear. A goblin grabbed a hold of Thorin who struggled against his grip. "No," I pleaded, "let him go. Cut off his head," the king yelled. I tried to push my way forwards but the goblins created a barricade. Suddenly a large explosion of light lit up the cave. Gandalf appeared in the middle of the explosion. I mentally scolded myself for not believing in the wizard. He turned to us, "Take up arms. Fight. Fight." Amid the goblins' shock, we were able to push back and grab our weapons from the ground. "He wields the foe hammer, the beater, bright as daylight," the king said, referring to Gandalf's blade. "Follow me. Quick. Run." Gandalf yelled to us. Buffer, whose grip on my hand never left, pulled me along. I turned my head around just once, to ensure Thorin was with the group. Once I was able to confirm that I quickened my pace as to not be left behind. We followed Gandalf through twists and turns, over bridges and under tunnels. I couldn't comprehend how we were escaping. It would appear wizards were good luck. Just as quick as my excitement had arrived, it vanished as the king of the goblins jumped in front of us. "You thought you could escape me. What are you going to do now, wizard?" he said to Gandalf with an evil glare in his eyes. Gandalf stabbed him in the eye using his staff, then used his sword to cut the goblin's large stomach. The king fell on his knees in front of us. "That'll do it." Gandalf used his sword once more to cut the king's throat. He fell, breaking the bridge, causing us all to slide down the edge of a cliff. Our small portion of bridge was slowly coming apart as we descended down the cliff. "Hold on to something," Thorin yelled at us. I grabbed onto whosever arm was next to me and held my breath. We slid down the side of the cave and broke more bridges and makeshift buildings as we fell. Goblins were killed under us during the descent. We landed at the bottom, all in one piece. "Well, that could have been worse," Buffer said with a small laugh. Suddenly the king's corpse landed on us, crushing us all. We all groaned and tried pushing ourselves away from the rubble. "You've got to be joking," Dwyn yelled in frustration. Thorin pulled me out from underneath the corpse and brushed me off. Before I could thank him or say anything, he pulled me in for a hug. I didn't hug him back out of shock and he pulled away before I could. He was for sure going to give us away if he continued like this. "Gandalf!" Keely yelled, pointing upwards where thousands of goblins were climbing down the wall of the cave towards us. "There's too many, we can't fight them," Dwyn said, sounding defeated. "Only one thing will save us. Daylight. Come on," Gandalf told us. We followed him through some more twists and turns. It was dark and the only thing illuminating the passages was the light from Gandalf's staff. I kept close to the group, only remembering Bilbo when we reached the opening in the cave. I looked around the group with worry. I had stopped again to try and see if he was towards the end, but it was pulled out by someone close to the back of the group. "Let's not make these hold-ups a habit," Thorin said quietly. We ran until we reached a mountainside not too far away from the cave. The group stopped, out of breath, allowing Gandalf to conduct a head count. 5, 6, 7, 8. Bifur, Boffer, and that's 11. Fili, Kili, that's 13. And Bombur, that makes 14. Where's Bilbo? Where is the Hobbit? Gandalf asked. He was still missing. He hadn't turned up. My breathing quickened and my vision started blurring. I sat down on a tree stump while the others started looking around. The dwarves started yelling at each other, blaming one another for losing him. I put my head in my hands and felt tears running down my cheeks. I had lost him already. This was all my fault. I guilted him into coming and now he was who knows where. I'll tell you what happened. Master Baggins saw his chance and he took it. He's thought of nothing but his soft bed and his warm hearth since first he stepped out of his door. We will not be seeing our Hobbit again, he is long gone. Thorin said, avoiding eye contact with me. The rage filled my heart. How dare he? After everything I had told him, how could he think Bilbo would leave us? It was obvious he was lost, or stolen, or dead. There was no way this idiot could try and reel me in only to stomp all over my brother. I stood up to defend him, managing to get in a few steps towards Thorin when Bilbo appeared, running to catch up with us. "No, he isn't," he said to us. "Bilbo," I said with happiness, running over to hug him. He smiled and hugged me back. I didn't let go for a few moments and just let myself breathe, knowing he was okay. I pulled away and he gave me a reassuring nod. I turned back around to face the group but kept a hold on his arm. "How on earth did you get past the goblins?" Fili asked him. Bilbo looked around uncomfortably and gave a small laugh when Gandalf interrupted. "Oh, what does it matter? He's back," Gandalf said, looking at Bilbo with a hint of suspicion. "It matters. I want to know. Why did you come back?" Thorin asked him, pushing past Gandalf to stand in front of Bilbo. "Look, I know you doubt me. I know ... I know you always have. And you're right, I often think of Bag Ent. I'm sure Wyan does too. I miss spending time with my sister without a whole bunch of other guys." He looked at me and laughed. I felt a tear slip down my cheek. "I miss my books, and my armchair, and my garden. See, that's where I belong. That's home. And that's why I came back, cause ... you don't have one. A home. It was taken from you, but I will help you take it back if I can."
I'm glad you enjoyed that video / gameplay. Just remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. Until next time, goodbye!